Hi, and welcome back to part 3 of the personality quiz demo. We're pretty much where we left off just a little bit ago. So now I'm going to actually add some buttons that will allow you to progress to the next question. We're going to change this a little bit so that we can hide all the other questions except for the current questions. And then we need to have a way to go through the questions backwards and forwards. First thing I'm going to do is create some buttons inside of my divs. And I'm going to alter, I need to add a class of clearfix in here because these guys are going to be floated left and right so that they sit nicely on the page. Take this, Control C, and then just copy over the button holder in each section. And that's that. So let's take a look at this right quick in the browser, make sure everything looks right, looks like it should. Okay. And you can see that our items are still shuffled. That's all good. All right, so let's go back to our HTML. So now that I've gotten all my buttons in here, I'm going to go back to my JavaScript. I need to add a new variable. CurQ will store what question we are currently showing. I need to go down to the questions, my questions each, and I'm going to add in a couple of things here. First, I want to set an ID on each section in the order in which they are now. I can just do that with this .attr. I'm going to set its ID value to index +1. Now, numerical IDs are not good for styling, but they are good for JavaScript, so we can do that. So the first question will be ID 1, the second question will be ID 2, the third question will be ID 3. And since the first question isn't going to have any previous questions, I want to go ahead and remove the previous button. And I want to do this for the first index. So if index is equal to 0, so that would be the first index, then we want to do this line of code on line 188. Just put that inside my curly braces. We can check that right quick. Make sure that there's no previous button there. So yep, previous button is gone. So what we're going to do is we're going to show each of these questions in turn. And then finally, when we get to next, you just press the What Am I button and off we go. So right here, it doesn't really, the order in this case doesn't really matter. All the event listeners are down below my function shuffle. Right here, I'm going to write a function. I'm going to call it showQ for show question. And I'm going to, every time showQ gets run, I'm going to hide the section, so .hide. And then I'm going to increment the CurQ. Next thing, I'm going to check to see if the next ID exists. So I can just write an if statement. Inside here, I'm going to need my jQuery selector. I'm going to use the pound symbol and then concatenate our CurQ value. So if this exists, the dot length should be greater than 0. Oops, that needs a scalar, not a pound symbol. My bad. Typos, they're the bane of our existence. So I'm going to basically grab this same guy, and I'm going to use the fade in method, have our question fade in. Take 200 milliseconds. If there's no ID of that number on the page, then I know I can have the finish button show up. If I run showQ, let's see what this does in our browser now. Question 4 is my first question. This next button is not attached to anything. I might attach showQ to this button. Let's try this in the console. We can see that this is question 4. If I run showQ, I get question 2, I get question 1, and I get question 3, and then last but not least, I get the finish button. So now we are back into Sublime Text. While we have called this to run once, we need to have a way of having it called every time the buttons are clicked. So I'm going to grab the jQuery selector, and I'm going to grab my two buttons by their class. So .previous and .next. I'll just call them onClick. If I just do next, it's just going to show Q and it's going to increment forward. So I need to make a condition for previous. I'm going to check to see if the previous button called this function to run, and I can use the keyword this. So I can say if grab my jQuery selector, this dot has class. I can check to see if it has the class of previous on it. Then I know that I want to go back one. So in this case, I really actually need to go back 2. So I can set cur q to minus equals 2. This will basically take whatever the current value is of cur q, subtract 2 from it. Because show q always increments by 1, we need to set the question value back by 2 and then show q. Just show q then. Call show q to run. Now let's take a look at it in the browser. I'll just answer one of these guys. I'll hit previous. It should still take me back to this first question. Next. That was answered. This guy. Next. Next. Cool, what am I? And there we have it. I just had a thought. Let me refresh this page. What happens if we get to the end and we've missed a question? So I get here and I hit the button and it says, you missed a question. Well, what do I do then? Do I just refresh my page and lose all the answers that I just answered? I can fix this. Back to Sublime Text. I had a thought about this. So I'm just going to go back to my line 158, the response div. I'm going to add a button in here at the bottom outside of the paragraph. I'm going to give it a class of missed and a class of button. And I can say check answers. So what I can do is if they've missed any questions, I can pop up that check answers and have it run based off of the other event listeners that I attached. So scroll down to where we have our buttons. I'll just add in missed. This needs to be a comma. Previous, next, and missed all have a click event listener attached to them. And just like we did on this line, line 212, we can then turn around and say this, else if, because we don't want to just say else, right? We need to know what the value is. So if it has the class of missed, then we know that button was pressed. And we want to set our value of cur q to equal 0. So this will take them back to the beginning so they can check all of their answers. So once they've clicked on that, we'll hide the response div and we'll hide the finish div. So both of those will go away. Something in the back of my brain is saying that there's going to be something slightly off. Like when they have answered all the questions, that's what we need to do. We need to do a display none on that div. So this way, if they haven't missed anything, and I'll have to make sure that missed gets displayed, I need to do that in the else statement. We can say scalar.missed.show. If they missed a question, just immediately show that button, but since the parent is already hidden, it won't be shown until the text message has been inserted and the parent will then be shown. So the message you missed a question and the button will only show up if you missed a question. Let's test this. So you can see we've got our question. I'll just skip this first one. I'll answer all the other ones like, oh, pretend I missed it or something. Right, so what number am I? I missed a question. Uh-oh, check my answers. Oh, I missed this one. Next. That's good, that's good, that's good. What number am I? I now am a 2 type and my check answers needs to be hidden before I get back here. So I can do that on the onClick. So once missed has been triggered, finish hide, comma space missed. And because this is being toggled separately from response, we need to make sure that that happens. All right. So let's try this one more time. Refresh. I'm going to just skip the first question. Next, 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 Okay, what number am I? I missed a question. Check answers. Okay. Here we go. Next, 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 next. What number am I? I'm a 3 type. And you can see the button is not here anymore. So there you go. That'll fix that problem. I just realized something that I had forgotten. This button should be hidden right now. So I'm going to fix that before we conclude this demo. So let's go back to Sublime Text. The easiest thing to do probably would be to take our Finish button and hide it. I'm being super lazy. Gonna just put a display none on that also. Save it. Try it again. So here we are. No button. Good. No button. And there it is. I'm a 3 type. Let's make sure that we didn't mess something else up. So I will skip this question and then I can check my answers. That's all good. Cool. And there we have it. So that concludes part 3 of the personality quiz demo. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And in the meanwhile, happy coding, everyone.